The CNN investigation, based on videos, satellite imagery, and eyewitness accounts, points to the Israeli military bulldozing the bodies of some of those killed near the Zikim crossing. IDF whistleblowers who spoke to CNN also point to a broader pattern of the Israeli military mishandling bodies in ways that could amount to war crimes.
A damning new investigation has revealed even more potential violations of international law carried out by the Israeli military. CNN found that the IDF had a practice of shooting indiscriminately at aid seekers in Gaza and then bulldozing their bodies into shallow graves. We're going to show you some of the evidence, but first, Jank, your 2 cents.
So first of all, I want to give credit to CNN, an outlet I don't often give credit to, but here they does a brilliant job of reporting, and I'm curious to see if it's going to have any consequences for the reporters who did it, like Jeremy Diamond, who's been brave and covered Israel conflict, Gaza conflict, really, really well. Number two, when you get into the details of the story, you're going to see that the IDF are basically terrorists, and that's what we've been telling you. This is another story that proves it. If the roles were reversed, just think about it as Jordan's telling you the facts of the story. If Hamas had done this to Jewish Israelis, what would our reaction have been?
Well, they highlight the case of Ammar Wadi, who went to get a bag of flour for his family from an aid truck near the Zikim crossing in northern Gaza, but he never returned. His family still doesn't know what happened to him. His body was never recovered. But weeks later, someone did find his phone. The home screen had a message on it that read, "Forgive me, Mom, if anything happens to me. Whoever finds my phone, please tell my family that I love them so much." But Wadi is just one victim among the dozens of Palestinians who seemed to have vanished near Zikim, which CNN says could be explained by the IDF's alleged practice of bulldozing the bodies of the dead aid seekers into unmarked graves. But why were there so many bodies in the first place? Well, CNN's review also found that aid seekers were killed by indiscriminate Israeli fire near the crossing. In fact, more than 2,000 Palestinians were killed by the IDF while trying to seek humanitarian aid in Gaza, according to the WHO, or World Health Organization. Here's more evidence from CNN's investigation showing that the IDF bulldozed areas where aid seekers were gunned down.
These are the roads where crowds of starving Palestinians swarmed aid trucks on a near daily basis, and where they were fired upon and at times killed by Israeli gunfire. We geolocated multiple videos of people being shot and killed to these bulldozed areas. The same areas where Palestinians said some bodies were left behind in the chaos. On August 9th, 31 hours after crowds are seen here, evidence of fresh bulldozing appears in the exact same location. This video shows just how close Israeli forces, including this D9 bulldozer, were to those crowds. This video appears to show the aftermath of Israel's bulldozing. Alongside a crushed, overturned truck, partially covered bodies of several Palestinians jut out from the earth.
And that incident wasn't a one-off. A half dozen local aid truck drivers who worked the Zikim route described scenes of strewn and decomposing bodies as a common sight, with Israeli bulldozers at times clearing the corpses into the sand. And this practice of improperly handling the corpses of Palestinians went well beyond the Zikim crossing. That's based on the accounts of IDF whistleblowers.
We spoke with 2 Israeli soldiers on condition of anonymity due to fears of retribution. Both described bodies of Palestinians being buried in shallow, unmarked graves in different parts of Gaza.
Essentially, the idea was to shove the body with a bunch of dirt clearing the road and push it to the sides.
And that was it?
That was it, yeah.
The grave was not marked?
No.
There was no identification process or notification process to any international or Palestinian organization?
Not that I was aware of, not in my unit. So essentially, we were never given any protocol or any order of how to handle any bodies. There was never once that anyone told us, if you have a body, this is what should be done.
So is Israel breaking the law? It appears so. According to international law, the warring sides should cooperate in burying the dead in a way that allows them to be identified, said Janina Dill, co-director of the Oxford Institute for Ethics, Law, and Armed Conflict. The purpose is to prevent the dead from becoming the missing and to allow for memorialization, chiefly by their families. Moreover, if bodies are deliberately mutilated or mishandled in a way that violates their dignity, this can amount to outrages upon personal dignity, which is a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. Jank, this is disgusting. This is heartbreaking. What do you make of this?
So there's three different components here. So first off, CNN reporting that IDF soldiers indiscriminately firing at people receiving food. It doesn't get any worse than that. So I studied the Srebrenica genocide, and the Serbs would decided that they should starve the people of Srebrenica, and then provide them food, so that when they came to get the food, they would be easier to kill. And that's what they did, and that's among the reasons why it was declared a genocide. Now, 6,000 people died in Srebrenica. Well, about 70,000 people at a minimum have been killed in Gaza, but it's probably larger than that because of all the mass graves of all the unidentified bodies, as you're seeing in this story. So you know who indiscriminately kills people, innocent people, unarmed people, and CNN reporting they were all of the bodies were unarmed, seeking food. Terrorists do killings like that. That the definition of a terrorist is killing innocent civilians, and that is what IDF did in this case, and in thousands of cases of people seeking food. It is disgusting. It is genocidal. It's ethnic cleansing, and so there's no excuse for it at all. And then on top of that, they bury them in these mass graves to cover up their war crimes. It gets worse, guys, and I hate to do this to you, but the CNN story got pretty graphic. And remember, their sources are, in fact, IDF soldiers. So if you say, oh, you're a bunch of liars, well, okay, you're accusing the IDF of being liars. So, and I want to clarify one more thing. As you see some good IDF soldiers reporting on these war crimes, and obviously anonymously, otherwise they'd be shredded in Israel. They'd be like, why aren't you a terrorist like the rest of them? Murder the Palestinians. That is what the Israeli government is calling for, and that's why you're having this. The people who are the terrorists at the IDF are the commanders. The commanders who give these orders are like the leaders of Hamas. Well, they're worse than the leaders of Hamas. Empirically, they've killed what now, 500 times the number of children. They've killed 50 times the number of civilians, nearly 60 times now. And as we've seen from Israeli reporting, their civilian kill ratio is 83%, Hamas was 67%. In fact, IDF's civilian kill ratio is the worst of any terrorist group in the world. That is stunning. And then the last part of this is, as they remind you of an earlier story they did, that's why I'm giving CNN and particularly Jeremy Diamond so much credit on this, because it is really excellent reporting and brave reporting. Because when you do this, there are usually consequences to your career. So we'll look for that and we'll see what happens. But thank you for being brave and finally doing the things that we want you to do. You see all the time that I criticize, traditional media, CNN, etc. But that's only because they deserve it. If they deserve credit, I'm happy. I'd love to give it to them. I wish they did reports like this, not just on this topic, on all topics where they uncover things that are true and do investigative reporting. Then I would love to give them all the credit in the world. Okay, but the last part is their earlier reporting where they pointed out that the IDF had desecrated 16 different cemeteries in Gaza, where they dug up the dead and just threw them their remains all around. And they had no reason for it, none. It was just to insult the people of Gaza that will even destroy your ancestors. It's disgusting. When challenged on it over and over again, they're like, oh, we were looking for hostages. I don't know if they were laughing while they said that. So the IDF's actions in Gaza have been exactly what a terrorist organization would do, and in fact worse. And guys, we financed all that. We gave Israel $31 billion to carry out all of these war crimes, and that is a moral stain on our country. And they stole our money to do that. And I say steal because the American people are not in favor of this. Over 60% of Americans say we should not support Israel anymore. But 95% of our politicians funded by the Israeli lobby, 90% funded by the Israeli lobby, say we should. Whenever Israel wants to commit a genocide and wants to commit war crimes and wants to shoot innocent people getting food and then cover them in a mass grave, American taxpayers, our voters, should be forced to pay for it. These moral crimes should be on your head, America. That's what our politicians say, because they're disgusting, corrupt scum who work for Israel.
Yeah, the thing for me is, while you have these bright spots sometimes at networks like CNN or legacy outlets, Jeremy Diamond here, in the blockade on Yemen that led to a famine and mass death that the US supported the Saudis' enforcement of. Clarissa Ward did tremendous reporting showing the US's role in that. Jeremy Diamond here. What I wish would be for the rest of the outlet to recognize that and then allow that the reporting from their colleagues to inform how they operate on other shows. But still, we're going to see Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, Wolf Blitzer, a handful of others treat Israel as a legitimate force in the global community. Your own colleagues are showing they are committing war crimes. They're committing crimes against humanity. They're bulldozing bodies into unmarked graves. What are we like? How can you see that from your peer, from your colleague, and then turn around and scoff at the suggestion that Palestinians deserve rights, that Palestinians deserve statehood? I mean, it's tough to celebrate CNN at all in this. Kudos to Jeremy Diamond, but it doesn't matter outside of that one segment, because the rest of the network isn't going to go along with that. You have somebody who's doing tremendous revelatory reporting, and then that's it. It goes to the next segment, and then here's Randy Fine to talk about how we need to nuke Gaza.
Yeah, so look, I'll double down on that too. You're right. Sometimes CNN or other outlets will do good reporting, and then they'll memory hole it. They'll just bury it. We once did a protest in front of CNN's building a long time ago because they had a poll that showed that 70% of Americans wanted Medicare for all. And then the very next day, they came out on the air and said that Medicare for all was unpopular, right? No, your own poll said that 70% of Americans wanted. So Jeremy Diamond and others already did the reporting on the desecration of the graves, and so many others have shown that they consistently murdered people getting food. I mean, the guy had to write a message. Hey, I'm going to get food for our family who desperately need it. So if I get killed, please, know that. Who has to write a message before they're going to go get food that they might get murdered? Well, people suffering under a brutal, brutal terrorist state of Israel, or any other state that does that. I mean, look, when the Serbs did it, we all admitted it, and there was no giant media complex going, that's anti-Serbist. No, the real problem is not the Serbs, it's the people criticizing the Serbs, you anti-Serbist. That's absurd, but that's what the rest of the CNN anchors will not only do, but I'm going to predict ahead of time for you. Jordan's right, they will memory hold this. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and almost all of their anchors will go out there and pretend this report didn't happen, and they will pretend that the IDF and Israel are the good guys and are doing self-defense and all that junk, nonsense propaganda on behalf of Israel. And they'll go pretend that the Palestinians are the bad guys, Muslims are terrorists, and we're justified in killing them. It's disgusting. It's the exact opposite of what is true. And it's the exact opposite of their own networks reporting. And lastly, I want to give credit to everyone, because we mentioned Jeremy a bunch of times, but other people who worked on this story should also get the credit. Lou Robinson, Yahya Abu Ghazala, Thomas Bordeaux, Nabir Salam, and Gianluca Mezzofiore. Sorry if I got any of those names wrong, but you guys are amazing, and thank you for being real reporters at a time where we desperately need it.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.